With God's help, I'm going to help you to see a picture. A picture of the challenging times that families are facing today. Secondly, the second thing I want to do in this message is to share a perspective. A perspective we need to have as we face those challenging times. So we see the picture, and chances are you can be daunted by what you see. So I want to help you to get a perspective. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, I want to help you to understand and implement the power we have to face the challenging times.
Yes.
For the very observant ones, you recognize that my alliteration may not be the best of taste. PPP for the Guyanese. Picture, perspective, power.
Amen.
Well, let me begin first by helping to give you a picture of the challenging times that we are facing. There's absolutely no doubt, Dr. Cameron, First Lady, that these are challenging times for families. Saints, true or false?
True.
True. These are challenging times for families. Indeed, many are the enemy's attacks aimed at undermining the strength, the stability, and the security of our families. I want you to consider 4 newspaper captions that I pulled out recently. First one. Could you give me the first slide, please? Arrow key. Go ahead. Okay, the first one, this was entitled Suicide at Bartica. And this was January 21st, 2011, coming from the Kaicho News. And it reads in part, this is just the part that I pulled out. A Bartica family found the body of 13-year-old dangling from a green polythene cord that was tied to protruding steel rods at a residence at 56th Avenue, Bartica. But please get the last sentence that I've underlined. This girl is the 3rd member of the family to die by suicide. Take the next one. 15-year-old girl attempts suicide. This was on February the 1st. I was amazed. This year alone. These are just a sampling. These are just a few. Again, in the Kaicho News, February the 1st, a 15-year-old girl attempted suicide by jumping off the Jimbo Bridge about 1:30 p.m. Friday. According to their reports, the girl lives with her cousin, while her mother lives in Trinidad and her father works in the interior. Take one more. Don't go so far. Yeah. Wife jumps to death from Demerara Harbor Bridge. We were going over to do a family life seminar, and we got the newspapers, and this is what confronted us. She was married for 23 years and died leaving 5 children and her husband. And the day before I left Guyana the 14th. The day before, I read this. Next one, please. This will shock you. Granny 75 hangs self. This was on 12th of April 2011, again, Kaicho News, and it reads, a 75-year-old grandmother on Sunday decided to take her own life by hanging herself in the upper flat of her home she had reportedly encountered financial difficulties. A relative said that the small pension and the cost of living that saw her paying light bills, water bills, and buying food was just not enough. The last one I shared happened in this country the day that I got in. It happened the day before. Mother drives herself and 3 children into Hudson River. All 4 drowned. Daily News, April 13, 2011. And it reads in part, a Newburgh, New York mother fleeing a domestic dispute drove a minivan loaded with her 3 young children into the Hudson River, killing everyone aboard, officials say. Many of you know the story, and you know that she released her 10-year-old. And it says, the 10-year-old boy ran to a nearby fire station to get help. But by the time firefighters got to the scene, the car had disappeared in the river. Beloved, I am not attempting to be melodramatic, but this is reality.
Yes.
The challenges are many. They're varied. They're external and they're internal. Ranging from our finances to our very faith. Often one challenge leads to another.
Yes.
Or has spin-off effects. Take, for instance, the insidious nature of the financial challenge many families in Guyana in particular, and I dare say even here in the US, are facing. That financial challenge, or that challenge, is a financial challenge. Insufficient money. It's the challenge to make ends meet honestly and comfortably.
Yes.
But with many spin-offs. Many families find themselves in such dire straits financially that often both parents feel pressured to work, even when that may not be their first desire. I know that their parents, both of whom are working, and that's their desire. But there are quite a few that's not their desire. But they're forced to. In some cases, children are forced to miss classes. This is happening in Guyana. If not school, to work and to bring home much needed cash. On the surface, this is a challenge of finances. Insufficient money. But in dealing with it, the very fabric of our family life is often affected. Relationships in the home are affected. Relationships with God are affected. Relationship with our church are affected. Our very faith in God sometimes is affected. Last year I visited the US and I called a very dear friend of mine. Back home, he was actively involved in church work. One of the leaders. And with tears in his eyes he says, Brother Joe, everybody calls me Brother Joe. Brother Joe, I'm ashamed to tell you that it's hard. I'm working, my wife has to work, I have to have 2 jobs. And I'm ashamed to tell you, I don't know the last day I went to church. It's hard, Brother Joe. Sometimes when we come home, we don't even get time to talk with each other. You don't even get time to take a bath, you just throw yourself down in the bed. Hard! Challenges. Challenges. So the challenges are real.
Yes.
And threatening. I hope you got a picture. I could have spent much more time on that. But I want now to share about the perspective we need to have if we're going to build strong, stable, and secure families.